everyone. Welcome to another episode of Awakening Happiness, where Chris and I are talking about our stories, sharing our discoveries as we have been working on ourselves for many years, working on our happiness. So today, a slippery word we have here, intent. Now, when I hear intent or intention as a Bulgarian speaking English as a second language, the initial idea is I don't even know what the difference between these two words is. So I had to kind of think about the way I use them in sentences. So to me, and I think the dictionary agrees with that, is that intention is what we can use in a day-to-day conversations. What's your intention? Oh, my intention is to make you laugh. Oh, my intention is to point to your attention, such and such. But in reality, I might be doing this with some a deeper intent behind it. So if I have more of maybe a subconscious drive or some need that is not fulfilled, I might have this planning in my head to be doing things for the purpose of create. It's like a plan to execute something that I want to happen around me for me. So intent in this respect would be also why it's very widely used in court to define why people do the things or they committed some crime alleged or the reason they're in court. So finding the drivers behind people's behavior, that could be intent. So when we started unraveling these two words, the intention is more like the general idea. Oh yeah, I'm going to do this. While intent is more pre-thought, premeditated. It might come as a subconscious need for something to be for people to because they need that kind of attention, maybe, so they do things with intent to grab people's attention or to in some way have help, or I don't know. So we'll see where this conversation takes us. Chris has an idea about it from Link for Growth and the networking and meeting with people. So what's your take on this intent and intention?
Well, I'm not bothered too much about the difference between intent and intention, to be honest. But it's a real. I can't really stress how important this is because it affects everything that goes on in our daily life. I mean, if you look at current organizations like the World Health Organization, or you look at the World Economic Forum, right? Sometimes they're quite clear, or they make out they're quite clear on their intent, i.e., what they want to happen, what's behind their thinking, where they want things to go, right? And they publish those things, and they're for all of us to look at. And then some people take them at face value. Oh yeah, okay, I get that. And then other people say, no, what's behind this then? What's prompted this course of this direction to take place, this course of actions to happen? And clearly there's more to it than meets the eye. There's more behind it than they're saying. They can't say those other things because they know people wouldn't like them, right? And we live
and
in a
some of
world.
them might be even criminal because if they were to go in court and and that intent was actually discovered, they might be in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, like last night we were talking about vaccines, neither pro or against vaccines, but basically, if that in no time in history has a vaccine been produced in less than, I don't know, 5 to 10 years, right? And here we have one that's rushed out in a year, right? Do we believe that some corners were cut? I mean, like there probably was, wasn't there? Like, okay, people are working together across countries, but that's difficult to manage too, isn't it? And we have seen no real,
Well,
like,
you can't even manage within the same NHS in the same country the
yeah.
two
So,
departments to work together, let
so
alone countries.
clearly there is an intent to generate
Mm,
a vaccine, and clearly there is an intent for these uh, pharma companies to produce something because it's incredibly lucrative, and they
yeah.
could get another on vaccine which comes out every year, twice a year, like the flu one, and they can make
Mm,
loads of money going into the future, right? So that, like, you can't get away from the fact that money is what's driving everything, and that it's not just a desire to make everybody healthy, is it? It's just not. That's never been their intent, right? Ever, right? And now they want us to believe they're just being very generous and trying to help everybody who's like on what is a dubious subject anyway, a pandemic right now. Okay, I'll probably get this video taken down, but anyway, so the point,
Just behave yourself.
yeah, but
Sort out your intent.
yeah, but the point is just is to highlight the word intent. It's like it's what's your real intention, right? Now, a lot of that would have to be done behind closed doors, wouldn't it? Because yes, if the intention was to release something which hadn't really been tested and blah 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 blah, then the negative connotations to that would say everyone would just say no 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 no, we're not doing that. So it's been disguised. The real intent is somewhere in there, but the publicized intent is a different animal. And we have to make a judgment on whether we believe what's going on or not, right? And that's for everybody to form their own opinion. I don't, I'm not going to say either way, but like, it's for you to decide what the intent was. You're the judge here and you're the lawyer, right? So the word intent is very appropriate, right?
Hmm.
When you take it into your own life, we sometimes do something and we don't really want that thing to happen. We want something else to happen, but in order for that to be more probable, we do something else first, maybe, and that then leads to something. So we're doing this all the time. And you might say, no, not me. I'm too honest and everything else. Like, things are dynamic in the world, right? And it's very, very difficult to basically be saying that this is my intention and I'm sticking to it, and that's the end of it. And like what I was talking to you before was the intent of Link for Growth. So when you're aligning yourself with an organization, it's really important, I believe. I'm like this. I don't know about you, but I'm like this. I want to know what the intention of the organization is. I
Hmm.
can't go and get involved in an organization unless I know. And it isn't always easy to find out. Right? It's just not.
Because it's
It,
hidden,
it's
maybe.
hidden, right? And the only way you can really find out is to have a conversation with the people that run the organization. Because then you're talking to the people who drive the intent, not market the company, right? Which might be two different things, right? And I'm just going to share with you, like, my intention in the early days of Link for Growth was to somehow, through offering something that everybody could afford, £3 a month, a cup of coffee, and a large network, everybody, whether they were in business or not, would be able to go to meet other local people and have conversations with them about whatever, right? It's a very, very genuine intent, isn't it? It's not. There's nothing else behind there. No agenda at the meeting. No statement of you're going to find out about this, and I can promise you this. Nothing like that. Just a space where people could go in, not have to pay if they didn't want to, and just enjoy conversations with other people. That should be available to everybody, and they shouldn't have to be rich, poor, successful, popular. They just should be living in the area which applies to where they are. Yeah, like these things are important to them because they live here, right? Whether it's community stuff, council stuff, business stuff, social stuff, doesn't matter. It's all going on locally in the community. And the intent behind it for growth was to enable more integration between different people, right? That was it. It wasn't about money, wasn't about getting rich, wasn't about dominating the world and all this kind of stuff. Now, in the early days, as I was going through my journey, and I was kind of the person that was steering this thing, of course, there were desires for it to be big. There were desires for it to beat the competition, as it were. There were desires for it to generate sufficient income to provide the people that were doing the work some remuneration. Now, there was an intent in there, but as I developed with Link for Growth, because Link for Growth was responsible for the development, right? And that's an interesting point that rarely people pick up on. The reason I changed was Link for Growth changed me. Right? It wasn't me saying this is what we should be doing based on my knowledge. It was learning through doing Link for Growth that created the change that took it to the next stage. It was a sort of self-evolving prophecy, really. And then as time passed on, it was like, well, actually, no one should be in charge of an organization that's offering the ability for anybody to get involved and to host the local events of many types. No one should be in charge of that. It should be completely what's the word decentralized, because what happens in Durham has got nothing to do with what happens in London, which has got nothing to do with what happens in Swindon, which has got nothing to what happens in Wales. Right? These are all places independent and completely different to all other places. Even if they're just down the road, they're still different.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically, it was turned into a an association, which meant that everybody involved was partially responsible for it. There was no single owner. We were all owners. If we were members, we were all owners. And what that does is two things. First of all, it stops. It basically means this is going to go wherever it goes. Right? No one's being told what to do, and no one. And it's not an organization to generate wealth on its in any shape or form, because what would you do with it? What would you do with the money anyway? Because there's no one in charge. No, it's like we don't need the money. We just need the money to be able to carry on. That's that's it. So it can be at an incredibly low level of cost because it doesn't need that much, right? And people have the power to do their own thing, whatever they want. This is the double-edged sword. So what's the intent of the individual now versus what's the intent of the association? And
Mm-hmm.
this is where the discrepancies come in, because now it's like it's dependent on. So if the person in Bournemouth decides to start an event and they're an egotistical person who's really doing it because they want to be centre of attraction and pull people in to help promote their own business, what's that got to do with the aspirations of Link for Growth? And the answer is not a lot, really. But what can Link for Growth do about it? Well, not a lot, really, except because its purpose is to disseminate its intent, not tell people what to do. It's the people out there that have to decide how they want it to look locally. Now, something like that might be successful to start with, and then it just comes crashing down around their heads because people rumble that the guy's only doing it for his own benefit. Not,
It's the control element that you're talking here about.
yeah,
It's like people do things with the intent of having power, having
sometimes,
influence, sometimes to having influence or helping others because they think this is how they look precious and important. There's just a few ideas that come to me while I'm
Yeah, I
listening
mean,
to you.
it's a difficult thing because yeah, you don't want to control you, but then again, you open yourself up to abuse essentially, and we do
Mhm.
this throughout our life in all sorts of different areas. You know, if we allow someone to take control of their life, they might take control of everything in our life. Like it's a difficult one, and to fight against that, you have to become strong. Like and maybe that isn't what you want. Like it's and and with Link for Growth, it's like the intent is very clear. It's a very simple thing. There's no agenda, and what it was a pure, and it is a pure intent to basically encourage people to create spaces where people could come and talk without any agenda. And of course, what happens when the participants turn up? Well, they do create their own agendas. They all come with a load of agendas. Of course they do. Yeah, I'm come along here today to meet people. I've come along here today to see if I get an answer on this. I've come along here to have an argument with people. I've come along here to see who thinks like I do. Like they're all sorts of agendas, right? I've come here to promote my business. I've come here because I've got an event going on next week, and I want to give out invitations to it. Why?
Flyers.
There's so many different intents, and they all come together and meshing up in this discussion group, right? And it what's that got to do with anything? Well, everything and nothing. It's like it's just the way it is. People have intentions, and essentially, it's very you can't dictate the intentions. You can't dictate, but you have to be clear about what you're doing. And even if surreptitiously it's a little bit negative, you have to be honest with yourself about what you're doing at the absolute start. If the purpose is to host a meeting so you can gain popularity locally, then you need to be honest with yourself. Yeah, because people are going to see it. Right. Whether you say it or you don't say it, people are going to see
Yeah,
it.
like the reason why I stopped doing business with doTERRA oils, like they told us how I was taught to do it, is you do a lot of classes, you invite people for free class and you teach them, and then you don't tell them that they need to buy the oils, but somehow you need to also tell them. So there was this intent. I'm inviting you, and I'm expecting, say, if I invite 10 people, I'm expecting at least three to buy their oils. And when that doesn't happen, you are disappointed because you went to this place with the intent to sell. And when the sale doesn't happen, it's like you wasted your time. And I had a real problem controlling people like this because I myself don't want to be controlled anymore. So my intent was clashing with the intent of my personal, the intent of how to do the business. So the business intent and my personal values weren't really in sync.
Yeah, and I think this is an important point. Like the intent has to be you. Like you have to have imbibed and be happy and proud of your intent because that comes through. Now, like I'll tell you the difficulties that you have with this is that, like, it's definitely with Link for Growth was that people couldn't believe it. Like they couldn't, they just couldn't. So you're telling me you're doing this meeting and you don't want to make any money out of it. And what they're really saying is, I wouldn't do it.
Mm.
That's what
Yeah,
that's what
right,
people.
actually. That's true. They're
That's what they.
measuring you against their own
Yeah, I
set of
wouldn't do it.
criteria.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which
Mm.
is why I don't believe what you're doing, because I believe there's an intent behind the scene here, and you're going to come along later and you're going to jack the price up and you're going to make loads of money off me. And
Well,
I
they've seen it. They have the experience
yeah,
of
and
it being
I say
done.
what I just say very clearly. I say, is that what you would do? right? and like these things, right, are really important. They are really important because they basically fundamentally help ask us to question ourselves about what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes down to fairness as well in business and stuff like that. Am I being fair? Am I being honest? Is my intent crystal clear? And is it honourable? Because if it isn't, you need to sort it out. Like you can only like you can only fool people once, right? If you basically tell them it's this and then hose them with that, right? Until it like that person, what they're going to do? They're going to go away and say, "Oh, that person, don't like them because they did this to me." Right, and they're going to go and tell 10 people, right, and then those ten
Mm.
people won't touch you with the barge pole, right, and then those 10 people tell another 10 people each. That's 100 people, like so basically now we've got a growing army who don't. Right, you can basically do this hosing people like a builder that doesn't build properly and the house falls down. Like, yeah, after it only takes a couple of years and people will never use the builder again, right? They'll struggle and struggle and struggle, and then there'll be more and more regulations to make sure that those people can't get business in the future because you've got to protect the public, yeah, and, and make it safe, yeah, and but the people who are honourable, they may not get loads of business at the start, but their honourableness and their fairness and their integrity will, in the end, win more clients for longer because people enjoy the experience they've had. And this happens in business, it happens in popularity of individuals in the community. At the end of everything, in fact, your life, this is your life. Whatever you just choose to do, the intent has to be honourable, or you face the consequences of it. Now, it might be that you want to be a villain or you want to be a robber and you want to, like dodge the law in terms of criminal activity and try and evade going to jail. Right? That may be your intent, and okay, like that's a life. It's a type of life, and I'm not here to dictate and say you've got it wrong. Right? That series of choices which everyone is encouraged to make their own
Mm-hmm.
choices, like and intent is the same. It's like what do you want to do with your life? What's the intention? And as you go through life that changes. So my intent now is different to what my intent was 15 years ago, and how I spend my time and what I spend my time doing and what I feel like I'm contributing is different because I'm different. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Because yeah, and but it is so important because the world at the moment is all about, I think, about this. What's the real intent? And the trouble is that they've all publishing fake news about their intent. So it's like a minefield. We
Mm.
don't know
Yeah.
what's going. Really, we don't know what's going on, do we? Like, why are we fighting in Ukraine? Like, why are we doing that? What's going on there? And you can see it's a nonsense. The best thing they could do is all say, like, that's enough. Look, come on, we haven't got the money to do this. We're killing people, which is wrong. Like we've got a few egos going on. Let's just sit around the table and sort it out. Look, we're never going to all get what we want, but at least we can come to some compromise and save lives and everybody move on and try and rebuild stuff. But no, because behind the scenes, everyone's got their own intent, haven't they?
That's the thing. And because we somehow, this questioning and independent thinking has been operated out of our system as we went through school. And you mentioned earlier something about this subject needing to be a part of the national curriculum. Teaching people, teaching children about intent,
Yeah,
not just in a one lesson. Maybe there is a little element of that in um, what used to be called the social, emotional, and oh, what was the other one? SEAL lessons. Social, emotional. aspects of learning. Seal, that's what it is. It probably was somewhere mentioned along the line about why people do things. But even if it was, it would have been in a one just in the passing kind of lesson.
Mm.
And but guess what? If children don't know about this and they just grow up being fed the media information, they're not going to be able to start doing this buzz, another buzzword, critical thinking, and form their own opinion about um, intent, and also kind of working with themselves, thinking from their own being, like, what's my intent of doing such and such? Am I being needy here in this relationship? Am I being um, too controlling? Am I trying to avoid taking responsibility, or what is my intent?
I mean, this is a very useful thing to be. We talked about awareness, didn't we? Like
Yeah,
self-aware. This is about being self-aware. This is a really important component of being self-aware. Like in at school, like did you study calculus at school? Like maths, calculus, like
yep.
integration and differential. Like everybody that gets to that position, they haven't got out of school earlier. But if they get to that position where they right, so let's say like 100,000 people get taught calculus, whether they want to know about it or not, right? And actually, no one gets taught about intent when everybody needs to know. Right?
But that's what I meant.
Yeah.
There is for it's been taken out of it or not included for a reason, because it will make people be very good independent thinkers. But if they don't know about it, they will be easily controlled. They'll be the masses.
Mm.
They're not
So,
self-aware. They don't know what's going on. They don't question anything. They just fed some information and they take it at place value. Sorry, face value. They take it at face value without thinking, oh, really? What's the thing behind that? It can't be right.
mm, yeah. So for me, like 1 in 10,000 people need to know about calculus and use it in their work life afterwards. 1 in 10,000. Everybody has to know about it because 1 in 10,000 people use it. Doesn't seem
Mm,
like it should be on the curriculum, in my view, unless people desperately want to know about it. But we teach it to everybody. It's like what a nonsense.
interesting.
Yeah.
Right, your connection is starting to drop out, Chris. So maybe we wrap this up.
Yeah.
Yeah, your picture's frozen, but we can still hear your voice, so that's good. Right, so guys, if you like what you're hearing here, if you have seen any other episodes and you think that you're kind of our kind of people,
Yeah.
our kind of crowd, make sure to subscribe so you hear more of us, you don't miss an episode. Hit that bell button to notify you when we release another one, and do share it with your friends so that I don't know, our voices can be heard far than just our little chamber of two here in our little room on YouTube.
So goodbye for now.
Bye bye.